This is the deep dive generated by Notebook LM on my post on two of Beethoven's compositions that have the adjective pastoral associated with them.
Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to dig into something pretty cool.
Sounds good.
It's all about Beethoven, right?
Yeah, always a good topic.
He wrote two pieces of music, and get this, he called them both pastorals.
Interesting.
Now when you say pastoral, what comes to mind? You know, in music.
Well, I think of the countryside, right?
Yeah.
Rolling hills and peace.
Exactly, like you're just out in nature, everything's calm.
A babbling brook, maybe some birds chirping.
Perfect, yeah, that peaceful vibe.
That's the pastoral feeling.
Right, and Beethoven used that feeling for both a piano sonata and a symphony.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It is. We're talking about Sonata number 15 and Symphony number 6.
7 years apart, too?
7 years apart. So how did he pull that off? Like, how do you create that same pastoral feeling in a delicate piano piece and then this massive symphony?
Right. Well, first you got to remember the symphony, his sixth, was written in 1808.
Okay.
Right in the middle of his heroic period.
Ah.
So think big orchestra, dramatic moments, the whole 9 yards.
Okay, so lots of energy.
And then 7 years earlier, he writes this piano sonata.
Much more intimate.
Exactly. So to get that pastoral feeling, he had to use what each musical form does best, you know?
That's interesting. So let's start with the symphony.
All right.
Since most people probably think of that one first.
Yeah,
And
probably.
they hear Beethoven's pastoral.
Right.
So what should we listen for? What are the things that really make you feel like you're in the countryside?
Well, you mentioned that babbling brook earlier,
Yeah.
and there's actually a whole section of the symphony that's like that.
No way.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing. It's not just about the melody, though, that makes you think of water.
What else is there?
The way he uses the instruments. He uses flutes and clarinets, and they have this fluttering light sound, almost like sunlight dancing on the water.
Wow.
And underneath that, the strings are playing this gentle, rippling motion.
That's so cool.
It's like the current of the stream. You can practically see it.
It's incredible how music can paint these pictures in your mind, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's like he's a painter with sound.
But a piano can't really do all that, can it? I mean, it can't imitate flutes or clarinets the way a whole orchestra can.
No, you're right. It can't.
So how does he create that pastoral feeling in the sonata?
Well, the sonata was written in 1801.
Okay.
And it's much more about subtle details.
So it's a different approach.
Exactly. So instead of those big, obvious gestures, it's all about this kind of quiet beauty.
I see.
Like the opening movement, for example, it uses these cascading arpeggios, which are broken chords.
Oh.
And they create this feeling of tranquility and spaciousness, like you're standing in a huge open field.
So it's less about literally imitating sounds of nature and more about the feeling you get when you're surrounded by nature.
You got it. It's that sense of peace and quiet you get when you're away from the city, you know.
I totally get that.
And the piano is perfect for that feeling because it can go from super soft to really powerful in an instant.
Yeah, that's true.
So it creates these moments of contemplation, like you're really experiencing the countryside in a personal way.
It's like those moments when you're out in nature and you just feel so connected to everything.
Exactly.
So it's interesting because both pieces are pastoral, but they capture different aspects of that feeling, right?
I think so. It's like the symphony is like standing on a mountaintop looking out at this vast landscape.
I like that.
And the sonata is more like taking a quiet walk in the woods, you know?
Yeah, I totally see that.
And Beethoven manages to evoke both of those feelings through his music.
It's amazing. So for someone listening, what's the best way to really experience this? Should they just put on a recording and relax?
Well, relaxing is always good, but I think it's worth really listening to the music actively.
What do you mean?
Like, put on recordings of both pieces, Sonata number 15 and Symphony number 6.
Okay.
Listen to the beginning of each, then the ending, back and forth.
Interesting.
And while you're listening, think about how the pastoral elements are similar and how they're different.
I love that idea. It's like a little musical experiment.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it would really help you appreciate how Beethoven created these pieces.
I agree.
So while you're doing that experiment, here's a final thought to chew on. How did this whole pastoral thing influence other composers? Did they try to copy Beethoven, or did they take it in their own direction? It's something to think about.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
End of video.